before Adhyatma manifestation. Nananitya. Yeah. So who wants to read it? Who was left with?
Tattva-jnanartha darshana. Although this is the last value in the order given by Lord Krishna, it will be considered next. The value Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva will be discussed last. Consideration in this reversed order makes possible a more logical analysis, because when the value Tattva Jnanartha darshana is assimilated, expression of the value Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva becomes very natural. Tattva means truth. Truth in the sense of the irreducible reality of anything and everything. Jnana, as used here, is the compound. Tattva jnana is self-knowledge. Artha means purpose or an end in the sense of goal. Darshana is sight or vision. So Tattva jnana to darshana is keeping in view the purpose of the knowledge of truth. Knowledge of truth, Tattva jnana, is the thing to be known. Jnana, or in life for which the values indicated earlier by the word jnana prepare the mind. So what is the basic thing to be known in life? The basic knowledge to be discovered in life is the knowledge of what is, such as what is real, what is fundamental. What is sought is the knowledge of the truth, or the fundamental nature of oneself, the creation and the creator. This knowledge of the truth of what is, the truth of everything, is the meaning of Tattva jnana. The basic knowledge of the truth can also be called the knowledge of self, Atma jnana, because upon inquiry, the irreducible reality of oneself turns out to be not different from the irreducible reality of God and creation. In fact, this value can be described as not losing sight of self-knowledge as the primary goal, as one's primary goal, having an overwhelming value for that goal, so that it does not become eclipsed by other goals, but remains always in one's mind as the primary purpose of life, the recognized end behind all other ends that may be sought. What is the purpose of self-knowledge? To discover within oneself an overwhelming value for keeping in view the goal of self-knowledge. One needs to know what does one gain from self-knowledge. What is the purpose served by self-knowledge? All human purposefulness can be classified under four headings. The collective Sanskrit name for these four headings is Purushartha, from Purusha, human being, and Artha, purpose, that for which a human being longs and struggles. They are Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. The fourfold purpose in a human life. Dharma, ethical standards, refers to the goal of conforming one's behavior to scripture-sanctioned ethical norms in order to obtain merit or avoid demerit in this life or the next. Alternatively, for the one who is not adherent to any particular scriptural sanctions, it means simply the universal set of ethical standards mandated by human free will and shaped by one's wish to be treated in a certain manner by one's fellow human beings. Artha, security, refers to the goal of acquiring the things that one thinks will make one secure, such as money, property, possessions, power, influence, name, and fame. Kama, pleasures, is the goal of enjoying the varieties of pleasures life affords, such as physical comforts, sensory delights, and mind-pleasing escapes. Moksha, liberation, is the goal of discovering freedom from the hands of time, freedom from change, age, death, grief, and loss, escape from a never-ending sense of inadequacy and incompleteness, from all forms of limitation, the desire to be rid of desire itself.
Okay, stop. So what is this Tattva Jnana Artha Darshana? What is he talking about?
The main essence, the main truth, the sense of, what is reality and what is the truth of that reality.
Okay. So why do you need to know it?
Because that's the foundation on which everything else rests. All your perceptions and all your emotions and all your thoughts come from that truth.
So it's very important to know that Tattva Jnana Darshanam. So first he explains the literal. Anybody else wants to say anything? Anybody else? What this value is? I hope it's okay. I will not. I'm a little afraid. When I stand, I will not just stand. Pull it
I
down.
think it's standard here.
What's this? What's this and what's this? So this literally Tattva Jnananta Darshanam. What does it? Tattva is what? Truth. Jnana is knowledge.
That is truth.
Yeah, exactly. The final truth of everything. And Darshanam means
To see.
exactly. So you will only seek if you have value for it. Right? You will not seek anything for which you don't have value. So the value is about seeking the truth, the knowledge of the truth of not only yourself but what? Not of the whole everything. That includes three things. What? Self, the nature of the world in which you live, and the nature of the cause. So that means this truth, even though we call it self-knowledge, but it includes all three. Why? Because what he's saying is the irreducible truth of self, world, and cause of the universe happens to be only one. So this is what when we say Vedanta is talking about the vision of oneness, we are not talking about resolving all of this into one. What we are talking about is you retain yourself, you retain the world, external world, and the cause of the universe. But when you actually inquire into the irreducible truth of everything, then it collapses into one. So for example, a wave remains a wave, ocean remains ocean, and this is cause. The cause is ocean. And the world includes of multiple waves. So it's not like they all kind of go away. They all remain, but you understand one to be the truth of all. And what is that? Water. Do you understand this? So that vision of oneness doesn't mean you only have to think about water. Vision of oneness means where there is non-difference and where there is difference, all that is very clear. Whereas for an unwise person, what happens? This seems to be the final reality. What they see, that I'm different from Preeti, Preeti is different from Tushar, then all of us are different from everybody else. And then what? Then there is kind of a world out there. So, unwise person, for that unwise person, everything is separate. For the wise person, people generally think that they will only live as though there is only water. That's not Advaita. That is, Advaita doesn't mean that you lose connection or you don't see the differences, right? So just let me give you an example, so it will make it much more
You live the life of a wave, but you know that you are a part of water.
So, just what it means is, exactly, you do live a life of wave. It's not like you kind of totally disconnect with your waveness and only think that everything is only water. So, people imagine Advaita to be like that, and that's why it puts them on a trip. So, we are not talking about Advaita, doesn't mean, this is why we call it a cognitive pursuit, not an experiential pursuit. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that you will stop experiencing the world and you will stop experiencing the differences, right? But what it means is, in and through the differences, you will see the fundamental oneness. Do you understand? So, let me give you an example. So, when a scientist understands that this table is something which is nothing but atoms and particles, and it's mostly space, where all these particles and atoms are just moving at a very high speed, does it mean that he doesn't see the table? He sees the table, like all of us. It's not like he that is now who doesn't see the table. So what it means is that scientist sees the table, but sees something more fundamental than what the table is. Do you understand? This is what we call deepening your knowledge of what is, not changing your perception of things. So what always happens in spirituality is we want to perceive this oneness. So we are put on a trip because then you want to negate all the forms and you want to rest your mind in some oneness where you only experience oneness. This is not Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta means you see, just as a scientist sees the table but sees something more without negating the presence of table. Similarly, you see the forms, but you see something more fundamental. Okay? So, this is what we call vision of oneness. So, what it essentially means is that you don't get rid of forms. Right? Now, then your question, a very big question can come, if the forms are not going to go away, I am going to remain this way that I was before, so why should I know this fundamental reality? What difference will it make in my life?
The way you
It makes you
live
lighter
your
as
life
well as
once you're
deeper.
awake. Once you're awake, your behavior is different than when you know that you are a part of the water and the ocean.
Okay, okay, wonderful. So that means, wonderful, and
You engage with the world, but you have a different sense of yourself with every single engagement and relationship. So it makes you kind of lighter on one level, but it also makes you deep to understand that there is this powerful sort of connectivity or whatever you call it.
so that
You
means,
become more humble towards your external attitude.
so this is, now I will use the words of, I mean what you are saying is right, what she's saying is right, but now we are using the book, right? So what the book says is, suppose you are only looking at the final irreducible reality of all three, and you came to one kind of you came to understand that it's only one thing. So that could be what we call philosophical inquiry into realities. So you're trying to deepen your understanding. You're trying to understand something more than what eyes can meet, right? Now, here, Vedanta is not only a philosophical pursuit, but it's also a spiritual pursuit. What does it mean? What is the difference? What is it? This is inquiry based, right? Philosophy is inquiry based. What makes it spiritual?
When faith comes in. Philosophy is an intellectual pursuit and spiritual involves a certain kind of faith about, I guess, God.
Can you actually live it?
That is the main thing, right? So what it means is that suppose I come to know intellectually, right, that everything is what? One. I can intellectually be actually pretty accurate, right? But it may not translate into mind living differently. So that means it is a spiritual pursuit because as a result of finding out that everything is one, essentially you have to change. In which way? The way that Namita and Tushar described. That the way you engage with the world can no longer be the same. It has to translate into some transformation in you, your personal transformation. This is why it is a spiritual pursuit. So how will it transform you spiritually? I mean, how will it transform you by knowing that fundamentally everything is one? Some of the things that you said. You said you will not do things the same way as you did before. But can you give me an example? What will you do differently?
When you realize interconnectivity, you tend to hurt people less.
Okay. So the one big thing is that before you felt as though everything is external to you and everything is separate from you, but now because everything is one, automatically you are connected.
Also, you don't try to secure only your interests because you realize that your interests are linked with that of others.
Exactly.
So you make sure that while yes, you look after yourself, you also take into account the group interest.
That is not creating
Ripples.
negative ripples
Yeah.
in the.
You become a contributor, not just a consumer.
Yeah. So that means there is an immediate sense of certain expansion. Immediate.
So like a win-win situation for all.
Excellent.
Enlightened self-interest.
Yeah. So enlightened self-interest, you can call it. Creating win-win situation for everyone.
Not taking life too seriously.
And also that's true. That's also a huge thing that actually what happens is we may think that as when we don't take life so seriously, our participation will be affected. It's exactly the opposite. The better we have, the better perspective we have, we can do so much more without not being affected or being totally. So there's certain lightness. There's certain lightness because the perspective that you have is a lot more than what your generally this narrow perspective with which we live our life. Okay, so that means, and then you are a contributor because you understand that you get so much. So that means these are all the benefits of knowing this reality. It's not just an abstract inquiry into the
The way you would handle the problem would change completely. You would know that okay, shit happens, but you need to
So it's
deal with it
more on
differently.
a kind of a problem solving mode rather than on a kind of a complaining mode. This is a big thing. Rather than complaining mode. Because if you look at things, there are so many things don't go our way that gives us reason to complain, but you then kind of move forward to say that, hey, now how do I deal with it rather than sitting and complaining about everything. So it has implications. Changing from our normal perception to this vision of oneness, it has direct impact on what? How we live our life. Exactly. But before we even choose to pursue this, we need to have a value for it, right? Now this shows that after having exposed ourselves to this knowledge, these are the benefits, right? Now the first question is, why would you come to this knowledge in the first place? Because you have so many things that you are busy with. Why would you choose to come and sit in this class?
Because of your discomfort.
Okay.
With the way things, if you didn't have.
So that means this is what these are the benefits once you listen to this knowledge. But the question now is, in order to benefit from all of this, you first need to see the value for this knowledge in your life, because of which you will see it and you will sit in the class and have patience to listen to it, and then later on benefit from all these different changes, right?
Rather, there are so many disadvantages of not knowing this knowledge.
Okay, great. So
I
can
would
you
put it
can
that
you
way.
say, okay, superb. So can you, Tushar, that's a nice way of explaining it. So there are so many, so the way Tushar puts it is, there are so many disadvantages if you don't have this knowledge. So what are those disadvantages?
And let others.
No, you have to say.
No, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Smallness.
Okay, so we live with smallness. If we don't see that bigger picture that we are actually fundamentally one with everything else, you will live with smallness. You can't escape smallness. That's a very big thing. That's true.
You don't have the knowledge that more is not really more. You know, when you keep accumulating, it is not solving your problem. I think that is the
Yeah. So that means that you think of, you keep accumulating in your life, hoping that it will improve.
Become a grabber.
No, but okay. So then you are still chasing this, right? So if you haven't come, what is the disadvantage? Because that's how you put it.
because that is not
So
going
you are
to.
still chasing this,
Going to
accumulating more and more and more. So you are still chasing it because you haven't yet figured out that accumulating more doesn't necessarily mean improvement. You haven't yet figured out, right?
It all falls in that smallness area. Right?
Sorry?
It all falls within
It
smallness.
falls within smallness. Exactly. So that means ultimately you're stuck with smallness. And then there are ramifications. So there are other further ripple effects of this smallness. Either it can come as you are still chasing things, then you are sometimes disappointed, then you are dissatisfied,
Blaming the world more.
blaming the world, feel that you're victim of whatever. So you are stuck with basically smallness and all the other ramifications of this smallness. Okay? So this book, it talks about that we start life not seeking this knowledge. We start life pursuing different goals. What are the different goals?
But,
Artha, Kama,
no.
and
Only
Dharma.
after we have certain knowledge, then dharma and moksha.
excellent.
First,
So-
we are only going for the first
Be
two.
there inherently, no? Because you
Okay.
certain things are right and wrong and what, because you know you.
Yeah,
Just
maybe
adhere
you're born
to
with it,
them.
but
So we don't start our life seeking this knowledge. We start our life taking our smallness as a reality, and as we feel small, we are actually programmed to get rid of smallness. Why? Because in reality, you are not this small person. So almost you are programmed to become big. To try to become big. But actually you don't quite know how, because you don't know the reality about yourself. So we try to become big. Nobody can stand this smallness. So we try to become big by artha. That means you acquire things. So you want to acquire things actually not for their sake, but through them you want to become big. That's your real goal. You understand? So this is how it is. Then you do this, so many different avenues of pleasure. And you don't want pleasure for pleasure's sake. You want pleasure to get rid of your smallness. This is why we call the fundamental human search. This is so fundamental to us that you can't erase it from your program. So we seek artha not for artha's sake, but for removing our sense of smallness. We seek kama not for just the sake of pleasures, but for removing our smallness. At one point in time, we recognize that it's not solving the problem. Why don't we always recognize? Because, if it totally didn't give you what you wanted, then people are pretty smart, they can recognize. But not many people spend one whole lifetime without recognizing it. That is not solving my problem. Why?
Because it does give you immediate pleasure.
Excellent. That is the thing. So that means it's not that if it wasn't giving us anything, then we are pretty
Figure out
smart,
what
right? We can figure it out. But actually it does give us some pleasure, right? So that means when you get your first admission in the university, you feel great. When you get your first job with Merrill Lynch or wherever, okay? So you do get pleasure. So it's not, if it didn't give you any pleasure, then what will happen is you are so smart, you'll figure out it's not solving the problem.
First diamond.
First diamond, then the first diamond, then it will be like first 1 carat diamond, there's a 1 solid, so that means, now what happens is, it does give you pleasure, but what happens is it's not long lasting. But because it is not long lasting,
Something
then
else to replace it.
Your
Car,
first
yacht, plane.
As your
absolutely. So this is how we go on. What happens?
Boy,
First husband.
First,
moksha.
so that means what keeps us going is it does give us some pleasure, but it goes away. So what we try to do is in our life keep recreating
The same.
the same, recreating but longer
That sense of
time.
pleasure.
We want longer time and more intensity. This is what we, so through experiences of both Artha and Kama, this goes on and
Your
on.
whole life will go in this.
Your
Very
whole
easily.
life can, exactly. This is why this Tattva Jnanartha Darshanam is, even if it does all this for you, why people don't seek it? You understand? That oneness is not just an intellectual. So even though oneness is the reality, and it is something which is the most fundamental thing, and it will change the way you live in this world, people still don't seek it. They have to first seek it to benefit from it. But people don't seek it in the first place because their whole life is occupied with Artha and Kama.
I mean, Neema, some people might be trying to get Artha and Dharma, doing actions, which some of them might be following more the path of Dharma,
Okay.
and some may not be following the path of Dharma to achieve this. The people who are not following might have more guilt and whatever. The guys who are following it and achieving this, they get even further away from this because they are following Dharma. They are getting their Artha and Kama sorted out. So they don't feel that guilt or whatever. They feel that I'm doing the right thing anyway. I'm earning my white money, I'm not earning black money.
But it's still not fully satisfying beyond a point.
So they will actually take a much longer time to come to this.
Their journey is longer probably.
Their journey will be longer.
Because
So, well-
they realize that it's not giving them fulfillment.
So
But it doesn't give fulfillment after a while. Like you feel like bored.
Makes you uncomfortable.
Like let's say you got the car, you got the house,
Then
you got
you
the
got to
wife.
that stage earlier. Some people will be like 95 and still be okay with it, right?
No, like many people, lifetime only they feel that we haven't harmed anybody, we haven't done good anybody. We are okay because we've done, we've lived a balance and we've not harmed anybody.
We did
come
not
to the
do
right
that,
way,
we done
we've done this,
charity
we
or
don't need
harm.
to, yeah, so they've never felt the need to go into inquiry of, but is there anything
That's
more?
true.
Like you're saying, from the wood, you've seen the perspective, you've seen the pin is fine, everything is fine. What is inside that? The
Who
wood is
cares?
what is where?
Yeah, who
It's
cares?
fine,
Okay.
life is simple and sorted.
That's true, many people do.
many people.
Maybe for another lifetime.
Absolutely.
Better.
So that
What
means-
triggers the
Yeah, maybe they
inquiry
don't
and
know
what
that.
triggers why you want to know is
It's discomfort.
if that you're getting to that sync with, you know, there has to be more.
Or it's a karmic reason that you're not there yet. It's like
We are meant to know this in another lifetime.
yeah, maybe that.
Okay. So now, let's refine this further. And as you all suggested, that there are within this, there are people who are only pursuing Artha and Kama and they have no other consideration. So that means let me just get my next car, who cares how I get it, who cares, So there is a group of people who are only concerned with Artha and Kama. But within this group there are a lot of people who are also following Dharma. It's not like everybody who is following Artha and Kama are only after that. So there are some people who have sense of Dharma. What is sense of Dharma? Sense of Dharma is, yes, it's good to be successful, it's good to have things, it's good to go on a holiday, it's good to do great things, but I cannot just cheat others, and I can lie, and I can do all these things in order to get it. So that means there is a certain consideration for
Universal laws.
okay. And for a lot of them, as Nita says, as long as they are dharmic, they feel as though that's it. They can't do any better. There is nothing else to be sought, and there is nothing else to be gained in life. The most you can do is to have nice, surround yourself by nice sources of pleasure, nice, a good, powerful position, money, properties, and then you are doing it right, and then that's all. Right? Now, so why would anybody then try to, because all these three are within the same vision that I am separate from everybody else and the world is away from me. Pursuit of Artha, Dharma, Kama don't require to know the final truth. So that means you still haven't come to Tattva Jnana and Darshana. So what would move you from this suppose, so as we said, within this, there are two kinds of people. One are following Artha and Dharma alone, Artha and Kama alone. The others are what?
Following Dharma, Artha.
Exactly. Dharma, Artha and Kama. Artha, Dharma and Kama. Why would... now, Tushar is arguing that people who are following Dharma, they are actually what? Relatively guilt-free. And they are feeling that
They might be contributors also.
they may be contributors, they may be giving some charities and things like that. So they may also then, as a result, the feedback the universe gives them is further comforts, right? And the people then, like people like Bill Gates and all, they are not, people do appreciate whatever they are doing or whatever they are trying to do or whatever. So now, why? So in fact, what he is arguing is this will take you less of a searcher for moksha, right? That's what you are saying, because you are
Would it not
basically
impact us?
comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's exactly.
wait. That is his contention. Okay. Now these people who are not following dharma will have much more
Discomfort.
Anxiety.
discomfort. And they will search for moksha much more, because now they are in a urgency to get rid of their discomfort. Do you agree with this?
I mean, it could happen up to now. Right?
Yes.
Chances are yes, but
Because
I-
karma makes you more aligned.
no.
And so
I
once you
think
start
so.
being more
Yeah.
aligned, then you automatically start thinking differently and you do seek more.
I think so.
And then you also confront mortality and all that. You realize that,
So according to Shastra, that is what we call preparedness.
Yeah.
So that means, now if you look at this model, where did Duryodhana belong? Only Artha and Kama. Where did Arjuna belong?
Yes.
He's the one who asked the question.
Who is the one who asked?
He was able to see.
He was the seeker.
He was able to see, because when your mind is not so conflicted, when it is able to, then that mind can at some point, right, some situations, what happened to Arjuna, he couldn't see it initially, but some situation triggered in him that, oh my God, all these accomplishments, all the privileges that I have enjoyed, and I have a good family, I have a privileged birth, I'm a prince, I'm highly skilled, I'm a leader in so many things, things, people look up to me, but it's still not solving my problem. You understand? So that means this person, even though has many more conflict, what happens is the way we try to free ourselves from conflict is what? Because we are so caught in our own world, we are not at all in touch with the reality of the world. So we'll try to solve it in our own way. So that could be what? Then
Create more disorder.
over indulgence into things, drugs, and it can, you create this whole big new world of yours where you try to find a comfort through your created world and not through coming back in alignment. So they are also seeking freedom from discomfort, but they are seeking through their own created what I want next or whatever, right? Because they can't see anything beyond. They have lost touch with realities, and they are more and more living from their own created
When he
world.
says, I will not even give you one pinpoint, that
Exactly.
means he wants that you disappear from this world.
Absolutely.
That is what he wants.
Yes,
Hey, you
absolutely.
five brothers, get out of this world.
Absolutely. Do you understand? So that means that otherwise you can say, hey, what one house he had to give, what's the big deal? Right? And then he could have avoided the war. But he was so deluded that he would not even give that little 1 inch. He said if he wants 1 inch of land, let him fight and take it. So that means, yes, it's true that these people have more conflict, as Tushar is saying, and they are trying to resolve this conflict. But they are not trying to resolve this conflict through coming back in touch with the reality. They are trying to resolve this conflict through their own created world. Within that there are some solutions, right?
So it's not win-win.
So it's not win-win. It's not win-win because they become highly narcissist and they just have created, and within that they find some solutions and they don't care what
If
happens
you
to
don't
others.
like your husband, you don't kill him, you divorce him.
Unfortunately, this don't. Nowadays.
Chirag, any comments?
No, the husbands are gracious because they're not small anymore, right? I think
What?
the husbands are very gracious because they don't have any smallness.
Smallness anymore. You see, he's a wise one. Look at this.
He'll live to see another day.
Okay, so that means it may seem, it's true that they have more conflict, but who is likely to go to moksha is more what?
Makes sense.
The person who is living a dharmic life. Why? Because even if you live a dharmic life, it doesn't necessarily solve the problem of your smallness.
Journey will be longer for these people.
For which people?
For those who are not following them now.
Yeah.
Compared to those who are
Yes,
following them.
absolutely.
They
This
won't
is
get it
why,
only. They won't get
first
it
of all,
only.
they will not get into it.
get
Secondly,
it.
even if they get into it, right, then the journey is much longer. Why? Because they first have to come to this point.
Yeah, they're not.
And dharma. And from dharma, then it's not possible otherwise. Okay?
They'll start liking the wrong guru also.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
These are the people who will like the wrong guru.
And they're enough.
Plenty.
Absolutely. This is so true. When you start, even if you start from this point where you're totally subjective, even when you start seeking spirituality, you will not find the right person. It is
Walk guy will
amazing.
only appeal to you.
This is, huh?
Some walk guy will only appeal to
Appeal,
you.
exactly. So this is what we say, that there is a kind of a natural selection with reference to you have to reach to a certain point of maturity before you attract the right teacher. So that means, so now a dharmic person still doesn't get rid of smallness, and at some point that dharmic person will see the fact that none of this is fundamentally solving this problem. there may be some trigger, right? Like how Arjuna, it was a battle, but for different people it can be different things. And then what they want to do is to solve this problem of smallness. Now, then they look for a spiritual pursuit and a pursuit of knowing a much bigger reality, which is what we call moksha. But as Tushar rightly said, you can be at some point, even if you are not following dharma, you can come to know that this smallness and the confusion it is creating in my life is really, and what I want to highlight is, yesterday when Guy came, so he came and he says, you know, I'm so messed up in my life, and I'm like on my personal level, on my professional level, and in every way, my emotional being and all that. He said, I'm struggling like anything, and somebody suggested your class, so he just came to my class yesterday. Now, after the class, he tells me, oh, this is too difficult, I can't get it. So he wants what? Something
Easy fix.
easy. So what is easy? Somebody will say,
Do
oh,
this,
I'll
do that.
cleanse you,
Yeah.
or I'll
Do this, do that.
Fix it
exactly,
manually.
fixing it. So this is what, even if you seek from here, you will, and you get suppose a person who can show you a much more real this thing, but they won't get attracted to it. So that means for you to resonate this final reality, that there is a goal called final reality and it's going to change everything, but it's not a quick fix. That itself requires a certain maturity. Otherwise,
Maybe
it
he
will not
wasn't seeking.
He was seeking, but what he was seeking was some immediate.
He was complaining to his buddies, and his buddies said, just go see Nima. He said, you know, your kid, you're like, this is so cool, you must eat it, now you stuff it in your kid's mouth. He's like, you won't even think, I don't like it, it's already started playing.
But that's so true.
I'm just
Because
saying.
that means, it's so true. When you come to, absolutely, see, when you come to spirituality, you have a certain expectation. So what is the expectation? That there will be some big guru who will solve everything for you. So you just have to surrender, and then he'll give you some, you know,
Mantra.
good to hear talk.
Yeah.
Be good. Be good. Don't have any greedy, yeah, don't be greedy, don't have fears, everything will be fine, be detached from the world. This is what they are expecting to hear. And then, when somebody doesn't say all of this, then they are
You
like,
have to work on yourself.
exactly.
Figure it out.
That's scary, no? When you do it on your own.
Yeah, and then you have to make an effort, and it takes time. And you first need to understand, first you need to reflect where the distortions are. So it's a long job. It's not like something which somebody else is going to fix it for you. So therefore, that totally, but luckily he was very honest. He says, now this is all going above me, I can't, I was expecting a very different class. So I said, wonderful that you detected. I mean, it's good to be honest than to think that let me try this one. The others were saying, no, try and you will get, but I could see where he was coming from. So he was not ready for
If
this.
you're really dumb, can you get this?
So not yet. No.
So then
Suppose, so if you're really dumb,
Well, we-
now dumb, okay, now what does dumb mean? Okay.
I'm serious. I'm very serious.
So now first
I
you have to-
can list.
No, don't please.
So now, 1 minute.
No, like, come on, you meet people who like really. So then what happens?
Okay, now one thing, now we need to define what is dumb.
They
Lights
may
are,
not be unhappy only.
lights are on, no one's at home.
They might be too dumb to realize it's
I
problem.
mean,
That's my
like,
definition.
I know people who are
You are
really dumb.
intellectually capable of absorbing.
Yeah, because this is a very
Yes,
complex kind of a.
Why are we
case.
going there?
That is getting annoying.
No, because I want to know like
I'm
what
asking
will
why
happen
they are
to
going
somebody who,
No, I can see
like,
the
where did they then,
How would they move on?
Okay, so now that's a good point. See, I mean that's an interesting question. For Vedanta, it's true that you need some cognitive skills. There is no doubt about it. Because you have to become, in order to come to this final reality, you have to become a discerning person. You cannot, and you have to be able to discriminate. Right? If everything sounds similar to you, that means you have a long way to go, because you have to be able to differentiate. So this is why we have a prayer. Asatoma Satgamaya. Asat is plural. Sat is
One.
so that means your buddhi has to take you from so multiple asat to so at that so you have to be discriminated, and then you have to be unlearning so many things, discerning what is right, what is not right. If everything seems right to you, then that means there is a long way to go. So this is why when people send, one good way to say how discerning the person has become is the kind of WhatsApp they send. Sometimes I'm like, you're coming to my class and you're sending this WhatsApp, and not only that, then others also say what? And I'm saying, oh my God, what is happening? If you're not able to discern some simple things, that means your buddhi has a long way to go. Some people send really good WhatsApp. It's not like WhatsApp is bad. But what you send and what you subscribe to is reflecting on. For me, sometimes it's interesting to see what people send, because it gives me an idea as to where they are.
Sometimes they don't even read it. They just
Ah,
forward it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Which is
That's
also
even
sad.
worse, which is
Yeah.
also
Ridiculous.
exactly, which is
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
a sign
Yeah.
of you don't send to this kind of a high level, I mean not high level class, but this is not a simple class. It has a certain level, and you don't send things which are just like run of the mill things. Even that shows.
Occupy people's time.
Exactly, right? So that is, your cognitive skills are required. There is no doubt about it. But this is not the only thing which is required for Vedanta. You require a lot of emotional intelligence. This is extremely important, so that you can have people who are logically extremely strong, but then they don't have emotional intelligence. So that means then what happens is all this so much part of Vedanta which is about personal growth, about right attitudes, right values, they don't have patience for it. So that means you need another type of intelligence also for this. Then you need what we call a spiritual quotient. What does it mean? What it means is that you can be emotionally intelligent, and for example, you know how to deal with your anger, or you know how to deal with your fears or sadness, but you still don't have this sense of expansion. So that there are different levels of emotions. The first level of emotions are all the different things that we feel. Then what we call little advanced emotion. I listened to one, Anand Nadkarni. He is that famous psychologist. He's a psychiatrist. He's not a, he's extremely well known, and he has come to some of our retreats. So he invited us to one function, and he's talking about, in the neuroscientific world, he's talking about what we call neocortex. So the traditional thing is what he says is that emotional intelligence belongs to prefrontal cortex. I think that's the rational mind. So but rational mind, so this is what we call rational mind. Your cognitive mind. So you need to understand what your cognitive mind means. You can be extremely clever at certain things. You can be a great economist, you can be a great physicist, you can be a great biologist or a medical doctor or whatever. So you have extremely strong cognitive skills. But when it comes to your emotional responses, so then you can be not very, you can be highly impulsive, right? So what does emotional intelligence mean? So that means you can be bullying people. So you have so many CEOs who are brilliant At the same time, they are very arrogant and they are like looking down on people. You have many people. So they have high cognitive skills, but they are not emotionally intelligent. So therefore, but that has an impact on you and on people around you. So what is emotional intelligence? That the very cognitive place, which is what we call prefrontal cortex, where you have learned other things, that prefrontal cortex is used to make you think about your responses. You understand? So that means otherwise your emotions take place from your instinctive brain. This is why you can be extremely brilliant in one thing, but your emotional life is governed by your instincts. Instinctive brain is called amygdala. So now, how do you make the person emotionally intelligent? You make the person emotionally intelligent by using the rational brain. But now, using the rational brain not only to think about things like the astronomy or astrology, but to think about emotions. So that means you make the person recognize
It's a great combo. It's a great combo.
It's a great combo. So that means this is what we do, and in fact this is why I keep saying that Vedanta is not a class where I give you advice of what you should do and what. Through this teaching, what am I doing is I am using your cognitive brain, but I'm making you think about not just business and economics and sciences. I'm making you think about the emotional life of yours.
So the process of rewiring.
Exactly. This is called the process of rewiring, using your cognitive brain to rewire you as a human being.
So you don't shoot from your default, you put it into a thought process and then let it come out.
Superb. So you don't shoot from the default, which is amygdala, which is your patterns, which are your instincts, but you actually become much more thoughtful, and then your responses come from the thought processes rather than this instinctive behaviors. Exactly. Exactly. Now, this is one.
This is my logical brain telling you what is the right approach, but then sometimes I will obviously shoot from default.
Sorry?
This is the logical brain, me telling you I've understood, but I will not react like that.
Absolutely. So that means
Because I
why?
have trained.
Because this is strong,
Yeah.
right? It cannot be just reprogrammed overnight, rewired overnight. It requires time. So it requires time,
Just that
and
you
this
have
is
this
why.
knowledge now, you'll be more
Exactly.
conscious of it.
Emotion
Absolutely.
itself is reactive.
Absolutely. Right? So exactly as Kishal is saying, before you didn't have any knowledge, so this is where it operated. Now that you have this knowledge, this instinct will come back, but you have a knowledge, and you have enough
It
knowledge
gets
to
filtered through
correct
that.
it. Exactly. So even if at a given point in time you did operate from here, but this knowledge you still have in the background, so even after the event, you will
Yeah, slowly you'll start.
slowly
Could I have
you
done it
start
grip on it?
asking yourself, did I do the right thing or
Could
not?
I have done it
Before,
differently?
that's all I did, and that's all, right? So this is how. So this is, and sometimes this will prevail, sometimes this will prevail. And what is the process of growth? So when pretty much you have rewired, that's called emotional intelligence, right? Till then there is a transition, moving from this to that. Then the very rational brain can be used not only for emotional intelligence but also for further expansion. So here, what we are talking about, the neocortex is further emotions which are even more evolved. So that means your ability to care not only for 10 people who are around you, but for community, for the country, for the world. So that means there is an expansion. There is this empathy in you, which is not all clouded by, and you begin to act on this empathy, which is what we call compassion. Then accommodation for others. You know, you're not always wanting everybody to be the way you want them to be and otherwise only complaining. You begin to understand that people are going to be different, they are going to do what they are, and still you engage with them, but not with this whole big pressure. So these are all what we call neocortex. Neocortex means a spiritual portion, a further expansion. So this is why it may seem, accommodation. It may seem that I just kind of, now I make you do this prayer. But for me, if you don't think about others and if you don't wish them well, your mind will never, at the most, what your mind will do is be emotionally intelligent. You will not move to this expansion. You will not move unless you start doing it. You understand? So what others are, what they are going through, you cannot be indifferent to it. That your mind has to create that, oh, somebody is suffering, you cannot be, oh, who cares? You have to be that person who cares. Because that's what will make your world I can't say on one hand that I'm interconnected and I'll become more expansive, and when somebody is talking about that, my mind is, oh, now this is a waste of time. It's not possible. That means that there is certain incoherence. So this is why empathy, compassion and all will not come unless you make it happen. So there is a beautiful verse in Samaveda. It says, Setustaraha. So what? That you have to cross the bridge, which is Dustara, which is difficult to cross. What? You are at the point here, Adana. Adana means what? Danena Adanam Taraha. What? Adana means you are just constantly only thinking about yourself, and there is no sense of kind of sharing with others. So now, and you have to cross and you have to become the person who shares. How will you cross from here to here?
By doing it.
Exactly. The only way you can cross it is by doing it. There is no other way. So that means, Danena, you start giving little. And as you start giving little, what happens? You begin to be comfortable and you are shifting your point from this total Adanam to little Adanam. Now that becomes your norm. Then you push yourself a little more. And then you cross the bridge. What is the bridge from Adanam to Danam? Same thing. Lack of care for others. All of us are so busy with our lives. Who has time to think about anybody else? Then when I talk in this class about connectedness, thinking about others, caring for others, it sounds wonderful, but we don't have time. It's not reality for us. So you have to start.
Take the step.
You have to start taking the step. As you take that step, what happens is, this is how you become. Over a period of time, you will expand further and further in your care.
So Swami, give till you are uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
When you are
There's a
comfortable,
line.
give little bit you are comfortable. When you are
You stretch
I'm giving, can I really afford this much?
Yes.
Utna do.
Then you expand.
Not only
That is
monetarily,
on
but
everything.
everything.
In time, exactly. And
You get it?
everything.
There's a line in the Guru Granth Sahib that
That you
says,
need to change. That is how you change
You need
your
to-
point.
Exactly. You have to shift.
Get out of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Exactly. It will not, anything, it will not happen like that. It will not. It sounds good, it will not happen. So my job as a teacher is to facilitate that,
Push the point.
push the point.
is there a hierarchy between giving time versus giving materially, etc.? Like, they say
There's
punya,
no hierarchy,
There is a
but
hierarchy. Money is the bottom.
Easiest. Easiest.
not
Bottom line.
necessarily. It is what is required in that situation. The appropriate, like suppose somebody is really in need of money, but you only say, no, I'll only give you, then it's kind of, there's some disconnect. But sometimes the person wants attention, but you try to solve it by just giving something. So that means your ability to recognize what is really needed in that.
That's the sattvic. That's what
So
they
that's
say.
sattvic dana. The other person is at the center. and you don't have any pre-decision as to what that person needs. You listen to that person and assess what is that person's needs and what can really solve the problem, and you do what needs to be done. Now, in Danam, technically,
I thought that. Yeah. go
so
ahead.
technically, what has the biggest punya, you will be surprised, is Annadanam.
You give food.
It, giving, this is why this Indian culture is so much about Annadana. Feeding. So what is the logic? The logic is feeding people. Listen, any dhanam I give, if I give time, I give effort, I give money, I can always give more, and the receiver can always take a little more. There is one dhanam in which you satisfy the person for that time completely. Where the receiver says,
Enough. I
Enough.
can't eat more.
"Can't eat more." So that means what you have done is, for that time, you have satisfied the person the most. Where the receiver says, Allah, Allah is.
It reminds me of my mother-in-law. We really
All are grandmothers.
So exactly. So it's not like forcing food. Unfortunately, there are distorted things where even if you don't want, they keep giving. That's not what. But how many people you can feed? Like, it's not like Anupa, I love her and I keep giving her and she says it's enough, 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 and I keep giving more. That's just a kind of a way of showing love. That's not expansion. Expansion means you are able to.
So that's why in all these they have langars and they have.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
now what you're saying
Islamic
is brings like it resonates. We went to this Bandara just now, and I was serving also, and when that guy says, "Nahi, really, I'm done," you feel good about it. Yeah.
It's very interesting.
So this is why in Rishikesh, almost every day when we were there, every day there was Buddha. And who comes? People would come from the US to feed these sadhus. And you're like, why are they coming all the way? And they would serve them. And it's not like, yeah, they'll just send money to ashram.
And the
say,
idea is
"You
that no
feed
one
them."
should go hungry ever. Like in India, like you really kind of feel that, right? You can always end up in an ashram and eat.
So now, the Langar, all these gurudwaras, they all feed. Feeding is a
No, the
very
Bandara,
good thing.
they call only the
Pandits.
the knowledgeable.
No, but what she said, langar is every month.
Langar is
Yes, in mosques.
Bandara is
Also,
only
On
the
Fridays,
saints.
I think everyone is
Yeah.
It's not beggar, it's only saints.
No, but then why do we have so many people just all over the place?
Because I think these ideas have not percolated widely enough. The idea that
And also over here there are a lot more people who don't have as.
actually I
You
don't
said in
agree.
India, everyone
I think
knows
that
what it
resources
does.
exist, but these
Yeah.
ideas are
I'll
not
tell you
much-
why,
that's
Chirag. People go hungry because they are of a certain strata. Okay, they are shy to say that I don't have. The people who are at the bottom end who say, no, the white collar guy, whatever,
No,
the
beggary
blue
is a
collar guy,
business. No, that is not
below their dignity to
Beggary is a business.
go and say that I don't.
Things are there.
They are the people who suffer.
Not always.
The person who is beggar, he doesn't have, he doesn't have a problem getting food. He eats much better than a guy who's got a job.
Okay, so now this is about who are these dumb people. So unfortunately, we think that people who don't have, they lack rational skills. They maybe, but they can at times be highly emotionally intelligent, and they can. So in my class, for example, when I was studying with Swamiji, there were some people who were extremely high at cognitive level. You know, they were great, very brilliant people. But and some were pretty average, right? Now you feel, oh my God, this Swamiji is so brilliant, and now they are sitting in the class, and what are they understanding? But they had, then I said, why are they even sitting in this class? But they do have this. So we tend to only think that intelligence is this, but they have certain things. I think I gave that story, right?
Feeding all the
Lepers.
Amazing.
And that guy was Sanskrit, no good, his logic was all over the place, and everybody kind of thought that he was so kind of, what was he doing in the class? but he had extremely high emotional intelligence. And now it's interesting, some of the clever people in the class are struggling to find students. Now this guy has become a big Swami because he does big pujas and people come, and it's a very different style, but he attracts a lot of people. He attracts a lot of
Purity
people.
like this, he comes
Sorry?
from a clean heart and wants to do
Exactly.
it. So that
Absolutely.
also draws a whole
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. It draws people, and maybe different kind of people, but exactly. But that's why we say that it's all arranged. Who goes where? It's all arranged according to Ishvara's order. Then the final thing that is required for Vedanta is what we call creativity. That creative thinking. Why? Because you can be extremely cognitive, but there are so many people who are, they are extremely, but they can't think out of the box. So their skills are very high. Even my sister, she was studying PhD in physics, and she says, and they are like brilliant people. Like, at the same time, she was saying, within this PhD, there are two types. One is, they go in detail and detail and detail, and they are so good at it, right? But they lose the big picture. And you have some physicists who are, of course, they have to be good at math and all that, but they are fundamental thinkers. That means they are not caught in that given framework that is given. They are able to look at it much more fundamentally. They are really good thinkers, right? So this is, and she says, like people like Albert Einstein. I read one book. He says we would think that he would be really good at math and he was, obviously he cannot not be. But more than that, he was a great thinker. He was a philosopher. He was a great thinker. So sometimes for the math part, he asked some other people to help him with the math part. But he was a real visionary. So that means that creative thinking. So this is what actually, over a period of time, what happens is people come with different strengths. When they come to Vedanta, somehow they have enough grace, they are enough dharmic, they have enough something that brings them to Vedanta. But what happens is, suppose you come with a edge here, you have a good rational mind. What happens is that when Vedanta is taught, here you get a kick. But here you tend to say, yeah, all this is all common sense. If you come from here, then when growth part is talked about, then you feel all alive. But when it comes to the bigger vision, then you feel, oh my God, this is all too far away, this is too abstract. So what happens is, we come with our given strength and we only tend to
Take what is appeasing.
exactly. But actually, over a period of time, you have to develop all four. So that means those who are good here, they actually need to, of course, use this, but also need to pay attention here. And if they are already good here, and then they need to also think about expansion. If you don't do this, and this is why they say that the least Vedanta will do is what? Develop your brain to the fullest extent. Because in all four directions, in cognitive skills, in emotional intelligence, in expansion, and also out-of-box thinking. So,
To be able to apply Vedanta to our daily life, you have to have creative solutions.
Yeah,
Because sometimes I feel like I'm in a situation and I know that this is what Nima has said about it, but how do I apply it without think of something
It's
to
very
not
much.
get myself out of the
Absolutely.
situation without ruffling feathers and not,
It really requires
It
creativity.
does.
Yeah, it
require
does, because it's
creativity.
not like you're not
It's
giving
not
us
like-
answers for
no,
each solution.
not at all.
There's a framework.
Absolutely.
you have
And
to
then within
figure-
this, you have to figure out what applies.
And it's so
from what
nuanced
I've
that you
taught.
have to really be like
Absolutely.
that. Okay, is this correct? Is this correct? Is this
Absolutely. And generally, what you're saying is, our mind gives us two solutions, like
Always.
either this
Yeah.
or this. So one has to get out of
Yeah.
that and then look for creative solutions. But within these creative solutions,
Yeah.
what you to draw from the teaching, what applies here, rightly and not kind of use it wrongly,
Yeah,
right?
just
So
use
it
it for
requires a lot of effort, and this is why this teaching has to be slow. Why it can't be fast? Because fast processing is all at this level. It has to percolate. It has to go down. It has to become you. For this, it takes time. The depth requires time. So this is why. Now, what did we do? We didn't do much. What is the time? Oh God, 10:35. Okay. Doesn't matter. So, do you understand that why would anybody, these four pursuits, why would anybody even begin to come to Vedanta, to moksha? So there are certain conditions required. Okay, so we'll do the rest next time. See, when you read this, he's saying it, but does it make it so clear? No. It doesn't. It is confusing, right? So,
More
when
intense.
you just read it,
More
now you
intense.
understand it, now you get it right.
More intense than a physics book.
Sorry,
It's more intense than a physics book.
this is more intense in the physics.
Very
Yeah,
nuanced
because you need
nuanced
to.
thinking.
You need to understand it properly. Because see, when you read it, it gives you a semblance
Superficial
of
knowledge,
understanding. But if you don't really get it, that's the thing. Oh.